COVID as one of the most unprecedented moments in our lives, but this for India is a very unprecedented moment in our lives where we get to see you live, where we get to see you and talk to you. And I just want to tell you before we get started that we have more than 33,000 people who have registered, who are going live right now, and the numbers are just growing, who are eager, excited to talk to you. We love you as a country, and we are very proud to have you as a leader, as an inspiration. And with that, I'm going to start my questions.
Okay. Thank you, Sharda, for what you said.
I mean it, Mr. Tata. We love you. Okay, let's start. Okay, let's start with the first question. You know, you've said that COVID-19 crisis is one of the toughest challenges the human race will ever face. This is a crisis unlike any we all as human race, as all of us have faced ever before. Tell us about your personal learning from this crisis and what should entrepreneurs and young professionals remember as they navigate through this difficult times.
Let me maybe give you a longish answer. First of all, COVID is one of the problems we've had. We've had an economic slowdown globally.
Yes.
We've had, in recent times, conflicts between major countries, the US, China, India, the breakup of the Britain leaving the EU. And on top of all of that, while we've been trying to recover from the economic thing, we get hit with COVID. Now that in itself is an unprecedented series of things that have happened. Before you have the chance of overcoming one, you go into another. But the issue on the virus is there's nowhere to turn. Never before have we had a situation where you cannot escape a situation by living on an island in the Bahamas or going to somewhere in an obscure Asian village till the crisis is over. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You have to live with the fact that the whole planet is under siege, if you might.
Yeah.
We don't know what is the level of the virus that is there. We just know that it's hitting everywhere. It does not differentiate between ethnic groups. It does not, it just is hitting your lifestyle, eating out, congregating, very fast. It consumes you. So it's a frightening thing. It's somewhat like the plague, which just devastated humanity, and no one really knew what there was. So in answer to the first part of your question, we're in an arena that we are not familiar with.
Yes.
Now, what normally happens is when you have an issue like this, the human body starts to react to try to find solutions. And probably some of the most interesting or tremendous solutions have been found at moments of distinct difficulty. In other words, we as human beings start to look for solutions, when everything seems gone by the boards, we tend to be more innovative and more creative to find solutions. And it's only a small segment, fortunately, of people who say, to hell with it, I'm going to go to the beach, and I don't believe in social distancing, which are a few of the indications we have of what can protect us. And we throw it away and say, we won't do that. So you have a mix, therefore, of crises and the hope of an abnormally fast development of a vaccine or a solution of some sort, which again has never been done so fast. So out of this adversity will come some very interesting and maybe revolutionary solutions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the bottom line of this is that we should not lose hope and be desolate, but understand and cooperate with the forces that are trying to find solutions. And it's not an issue of, do I wear a face mask or do I not wear a face mask, or what do I do? If we can all unite, and we need to unite in order to find solutions and put them to work and put an end to this crisis. So we need to not rebel against whatever is said that's reasonably sensible, maybe unpleasant for the time being, but sensible, and get over this crisis, or we'll have the fear of having a relapse of this virus, duly mutated and more difficult to resolve.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I have to say. I don't know what more I can say. I've been, since March, I'm in the high risk age bracket, so I'm categorized as stay at home, don't venture out, don't shake hands, etc. So I've been a little out of touch with the world around us, other than what one sees on TV, and just trying to be as effective as I can be from the house.
Yeah. Mr. Tata, you have the blessings of 1.3 billion people. You know that everyone loves you so much. We are so proud to have you. And yeah, and again, I want to say for everyone who's joined in and is joining in continuously, that we are so thankful that you're doing this conversation with us. And with that, I'll come to my next question. We in India are very lucky to have a leader like you. You have been one of the most successful businessmen in the world. And but in your lifetime, in your career, you would have gone through many ups and downs. And from your experience, can you share with us a few examples of turnarounds that you've made and turnarounds that you've seen, and what should entrepreneurs and young professionals keep in mind as they try to win against all the odds?
Okay, I guess in terms of the paucity of time, one should look at the turnarounds, meaning from a seeming failure or problem area rather than talking of a high where you gloat at seeming success. Um, there have been many instances of seeming problems that may arise from change in business cycle or some environmental change that has taken place or some regulation. So I'll pick one, and that's going to be the purchase of Jaguar Land Rover, where immediately after we got involved, the economy in Europe crashed.
Yeah.
And the almost expected hello from people would be, how could you be so stupid? You bought this huge headache. Ford Motors have tried for 8 years to turn the company around, and it hasn't been successful. What are you, as an Indian automobile company, going to do? And in Coventry, where the plant is located, there were rumors that we were going to close down the factory, convert them into tandoori chicken restaurants. No, this was actually so. It was not cynical gossip. And quite frankly, speaking for myself, I really didn't know what we had bought and whether we could, with all these comments, whether we could find a way to pull ourselves out. Anyway, a significant meeting was my first day at the Jaguar plant. I invited all the workers to a town hall where we would answer many of the questions they had. And most of the questions were, what are you going to do? Are you going to close down our plants and let go several thousand people?
Mm.
What are you going to do? And how are you going to do it? The British government at that time was Gordon Brown's government. And while he was, I think, very genuinely keen to support us, other members of his government couldn't care less. And they felt that this was an Indian problem and they go to the Indian banks and look for it, don't come to us. The jobs, of course, were British. And what they were not considering was the fact that they were hurting their own economy. Nevertheless, standing there that day with this relatively not hostile but testy crowd of people, I turned to them and said, look, I really don't know what we will do, but I assure you we do not wish to close down. We should work shoulder to shoulder and revive these two brands into the glory that they had at one stage. That's all I said. This whole team of people put their shoulders together. They developed new products. They took some downturns as they put the company on its feet. What did I do? I can only say that I registered confidence in the people. I got back 3 times, 4 times the result of what the company repaid its purchase price twice over. And we have a major problem again as we speak due to the exit of the company from the EU, etc. But once again, one is going to turn to the people to say, we're with you, we'll do what we can, but let's do it together. So that perhaps is, in recent times, the biggest fear, the biggest concern, and the greatest satisfaction that one has had.
Mr. Tata, what I'm also hearing from you is, empathy, compassion, and equality and care in business leads to amazing outcomes. And you've always stood for that. And then you have operated in that style. Yeah.
Well, all it means is that there are two sides to something. There's the side as a business leader that you have to face to your shareholders, your stakeholders. But there are the people that have to deliver the goods, and you can't stand there with a whip.
Yeah.
You have to understand their position. If they're angry, there's a reason for that. You need to deal with that. So there's as much responsibility to find solutions and to work towards them. There's just another thought incident that comes to mind, which moved me.
Yeah.
And that was in India, Tata Motors. Just after I became chairman, we had a major strike in the company, very violent. About 300-400 of our workers were beaten up outside the plant. About 60 officers were stabbed. And it was a bad scene. We stayed with the situation. I spent 3 or 4 days in the plant at that time to say we were together. And we overcame the strike and we started work again. After that, the first thing was the union's new agreement. And it was the issue of payment of bonus, statutory bonus. And we could have, in fact, the management didn't want to pay that bonus because we had had a strike. And I came forward and said, look, the workers had nothing to do with it. These are the people that stood with us. We should pay the bonus. That one act came back again and again, driven by the workers saying, the management did this for us. We should forego this in our agreement. This should be done. We should work with the management. There was another major sense of psychological turnaround on the back of a rather dangerous situation. And those are two examples that come to mind.
When Mr. Tata, when I say that we as India and young India, we love you, then, because these are inspirations, these are real things that you've lived and you've done. And this is so inspiring for all of us. And especially in this time when we are seeing so many, if I may say so, if I may use the word callous decisions being taken, you are an inspiration for us.
You're embarrassing me.
No, I'm not at all embarrassing you. I'm being very authentic and very true. We love you. Anyways, I'll come to my next question.
Okay.
As an entrepreneur, as a leader, helming Tata Group for more than 2 decades, you've stood for business ethics. But today, we are seeing businesses and corporates solely, mostly singularly concentrating on profits, on optimizing profitability in our environment, in our economy. We are seeing that, as a leader who's lived for business ethics all his life, how do you imagine and propose the significance and role of business ethics as of today?
That's a difficult one to respond to. To a great extent, um, a company is viewed by its performance, by its profits, basically.
Yeah,
And that covers, shields, protects, and camouflages what's inside the company. The company could be a very happy, worthwhile environment, or it could be a nasty environment where you work morning to evening and go home and have no uh, sense of belonging to your company.
yeah,
The the financial and the uh, business segment, unfortunately, more often than not, look at the profit, the numbers, and view you on that basis rather than the more holistic issue of, are you happy to work for the company you are working for? Uh, is it is the company's management being fair to you as one of the stakeholders? As a customer, do you feel the company is being fair to you
yeah,
in terms of the quality and the uh, after sales support that you should get? So, what is uh, the interaction experience you have when interacting with company X? And what stands out at that time is, ethically, are you proud of your company, or do you feel that it's been fair to you, particularly in difficult times? Do you deal with your customers in a fair manner when there's a problem? And if the management can be brave enough and honest enough to rise to that occasion and not be concerned about the image alone, and not take a view that I project myself as a leader that has never done anything wrong,
yeah,
and everything I've done is right and needs to be protected, and you cannot criticize me, then I think you have forgotten a lot of things that you should be looking at in terms of the ethics of the company you chair. And more often than not, at some point in the future, you'd pay a price for it.
yeah, yeah. Ms. Tata, the young people today, and I'm also particularly mentioning the young entrepreneurs and people who are starting their businesses, are torn between, this whole emphasis on profitability, growing, making money, and also finding purpose and then having purpose. And purpose is always very hard to chase, to achieve. What would you tell entrepreneurs, young professionals who are in that crossroad, who are in that dilemma? Uh, you know, what, when they're chasing profitability and when they're looking at purpose, what should they be thinking? What would your advice be?
Well, I think all of us, uh, maybe in some of us more hidden than others, we're all looking for the spotlight, whether we admit it or not. We
Yeah,
want to be successful.
yeah,
Uh, the means of gauging that success is profits. Usually, is generally how it's seen. And we want our story to be another success story,
Yes.
which gives us um, which gives us profits, it puts us in money, and and that we consider ourselves successful as a result of that. Uh, so profits is not something that one can forget or take a view that, well, we're not concerned about that. It's very much a concern. The question is what you do to achieve those profits, and what is the purpose that you're in that business.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I have a view that we're not in that business to just to make a profit. You're in that business to serve the customer, to serve your shareholders, all your stakeholders, to do it ethically, not to jeopardize the safety. You may have bad decisions. You may have
Yeah.
business standards that may, a period of time when you have a downturn where everything looks grim. What you do in those difficult times for all your stakeholders, how you reflect the downturn amongst yourself. Do you give yourself rising payrolls and say that, well, we have to uh, increase the livelihood of our managers, but not of our workers, or uh, take something away from the customers? I think it's an aggregation of those kinds of things that finally, somewhat like politics, uh, you do the right thing on every count. You take the good with the bad, but you don't run away from the difficult difficult
Yeah.
actions that you have to take. I always say maybe the greatest thing you do is as a manager is, do you go home at night and say, I did the right thing? Maybe it was difficult, but that's what I did.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. True. Very, very true. Ms. Tata, the world is talking about how COVID-19 is pushing corporates and businesses to think more about stakeholder values rather than shareholder values. And you and Tata Group has done this, has valued the stakeholder value, the whole value and emphasis on it for over so many decades and generations. What would your advice, suggestion, or how do you imagine the role that businesses should play post COVID, and how should they, and then the need for transformation in businesses? What should they be doing post COVID?
Well, the first thing is, as I said earlier, you have no place to hide or no place to escape to. COVID hits you wherever you
Yeah,
are. And so what you have to accept is that whatever your reasons may be, you have to change in terms of what you consider fair or good or necessary in order to survive. We will not be able to isolate ourselves and say, oh, we will continue to do this because we're doing this for our shareholders. You're doing it for everyone, and you won't survive in this particular environment unless you're sensitive to all your stakeholders that you have to cater to. Uh, Therefore, for the first time, people have to be concerned about uh, the place, the workplace. Do you work from the house? Uh, the initial tendency when the virus hit was lay off people,
Yeah.
thousands of people. Is
Yeah.
that going to solve your problem? I don't think it is. That's the knee-jerk reaction that you had from the traditional workplace. Lay off people because the business is gone. But you have a responsibility to those people. We see this in India in the migrant labor.
Yeah.
That labor force, which was huge, one day was just told that there is no work for you. We don't have a way of finding means of sending you home. You're just there. You don't have food to eat. You don't have a place to stay. Uh, Not wishing to blame anybody, but that was the traditional view. That view has changed now to who are you to do that? These are the people that have worked for you. These are the people who served you all their career. So you send them out to live in the rain. Is that your definition of uh, ethics for your and you, when you treat your labor force that way? So the enlightened uh, manager or owner would start to feed thousands of people in Maidans that are created, starting to look at what can be done. The government has stepped in to set a set of principles that would lead to payment of money and livelihood for these people. I hope we never have another case, but if we did have another case of this type, I think you'd have a much better understanding of what people could do, and companies would be reacting much faster in the right way
Yeah.
rather than just letting people go.
Yeah. 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 Very, very true. Miss Tata, thank you. Thank you. It is so reassuring and so, I'm just saying, not for myself, but I'm just saying for all the people who are watching this is so inspiring listening to you.
Thank you.
I want to ask you, in all the years that you've been working, and you've been working for so many years, what is that one memorable moment, work moment, that stands out, that you remember?
I honestly can't think of a particular instance. There have been many. So, which has been the one that stands out is not very clear to me. I Let me duck your question a bit and say that it's a collection of instances that you look back at on the time and say there have been instances that have been learning experiences for you. For example, getting involved with personal investments, as I have tried to do in supporting startups,
Yeah.
has been a learning experience for me. I, in humility, have to say I haven't brought any great magic with me. I have uh, chosen to support uh, enterprises that seem to uh, attract me from the founder's position, from what the company is trying to do. So I think that's an aggregation of experiences that you look back on your career or your business history and say, that was an interesting time. there's not any one instance that one can pull and say this was it. So that's my duck question answer to your.
Yeah, but I'll give you a direct answer to this question, Mr. Tata. You said that you've not brought magic to the investments that you've made in startups and you were learning, which you've told many a times. But I'm just going to say that for all the startups that you invested, like I'm you've brought such credibility, value, and inspiration to all of them. And then, even today, I have to tell you this now that I'm having this conversation, and I've got hundreds of startups who have messaged me over the last 10 days that can we have Mr. Ratan Tata. So you have been so inspirational for all the startups and all the entrepreneurs. So that's my answer to your duck question.
Okay.
My second question, what have you missed the most as you've been locked down for the last 4 months?
Good question. It's been a strange experience. I have been quite comfortable at home. I have a little garden. My dogs have had a chance to run. They haven't been cooped up. But the touch and feel of being in a situation, even though it's a dangerous situation in that you could catch the virus
Yeah.
and fall ill or even die. It has taken a bit of the actual interest in life away. I find it difficult to decide, is it Monday or Wednesday? Is, do I give someone an appointment for this week or next week? Uh, there's a sterility that starts to sneak into the thing, a lethargy that you wish you could overcome, but everybody is dispersed. Everybody's working from the house.
Yeah.
Papers are in the office. So there's a certain element that I can't describe, which extracts you from the reality.
Yeah.
The migrant labor I talked about a few days ago, it's what you read about. I can't get in my car and drive there to see it firsthand.
Yeah.
So you come out of this almost like you were in house arrest.
Yeah. Yeah. But Mr. Tata, I have to tell, knowing you, I know that the word you used, lethargy, I don't think so that I am sure, and Shantanu somewhere will vouch for this, that you must be working round the clock even now. So even with the lockdown. Yeah.
Well, that's for Shantanu to see how much his spare time has been encroached upon.
Yeah. And my last question to you, once the lockdown is over, what's that one thing that you want to do, one place you want to travel to, something that you really want to do once you're out of this lockdown?
In my business life, travel and interaction has been one of the things that has made my business life interesting. It's been creating relations with people, participating in new ideas, taking risks uh, that have led to success. In some cases, not, but by and large, thank God, successful. I would like to start to relive that type of lifestyle that one has had. it's not been yachts and manors and huge estates. It's been a wonderful experience of interacting with people that stand for the same ideals as you do and exchanging views with them. That's something I've come to miss. Uh, Virtual meetings like we're having now do rebuild some of that, but it's still not the same.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I would really look forward to doing. But by the same token, I'm also building in firewalls to make sure that we don't have to relive this terrible drama over again, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Tata, thank you. You know, I have to go on record to say this, that I always tell about you, when I have to describe the experience, like the more I have met you and experienced you, when you get to know some people more closely, then you think, oh, he was a super celebrity and he was a superstar. But, he's not that good. But the more you get to know you, one thinks, wow, and the respect only grows. And thank you. I know that you came today to talk and just be there for young people, for young entrepreneurs, and you just wanted to be with all of them and then just talk to them. And it means so much. And I hope we get to do this again very soon and have more conversations with you. Thank you. This is very, very inspiring.
Thank you very much. I just need to say that today we're talking about the people of India, the young people of India, who are a larger part of the population than in many countries. I'm proud of the fact that we can, in fact, have a group of innovative, creative people who made such success of their young lives. And I just wish to see the day where India really becomes an economic powerhouse driven by the creativity of and the ethical behavior of its young population. And thank you for your time. And I just feel that this is an opportunity that I must say thank you for as something we stand for. I wish everybody luck. I hope we get out of this horrible situation that we are in, that we find solutions, that we deal with them as we should. Each one of us has to make some sacrifice to make this happen. I hope we do that. And of course, it'd be a pleasure to be with you again in a similar situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tata. I'm holding to it. We'll come back next month. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.